Air Taco, man, like, I just assume that people have their sugar in packets. That's how I have my sugar. I don't really have, like, bags of sugar. Although, well, okay. No, people totally have bags of sugar, though.
People do, yeah.
That's not a thing.
Like, we buy 5-pound bags, actually. But what we do is we pour it in a big, like, container with a scoop.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, if you use enough sugar, then you can, like, totally buy it in bags. I buy packets because I don't really... What are you cooking that requires so much ready access to fucking, like, ladles of sugar?
You're not gonna cook anything that's gonna involve sugar where you're gonna be like, I'll just get, like, 2 packs.
How much sugar are you using? Like, unless you're baking something, unless you are baking, what are you using sugar for?
Yes, when you're cooking, and thus baking!
Alright, Academia, let me talk about terms right now. Baking
yeah,
and cooking.
I know, you're an idiot.
Those are not the same thing. Anyone who has ever... Like, people will tell you that because there's tons of people who are very good cooks and shitty bakers, and vice versa, because they're completely different arts. The only similarity they have is that you're making food.
The problem is that what you are literally talking about right now, you are using the terminology in such a way that it is equivalent. If you are cooking food and baking food, like, in both cases, you are going to be following, like, recipes and designing things that are going to involve more than 2 packets of sugar.
Excuse me. Villager... I was paying literally no attention to that fucking last match because of this goddamn... Okay, no, that means Pollux wins.
Pollux wins, yeah.
Alright.
Moving on.
2-0. Moving on.
First match of, top 8. That's Arctic and Zeke.
Yeah, if you bake. I don't cook, but I also definitely don't bake. If I did cook, I wouldn't bake.
Okay, but the issue here is that with the way that you were using the terminology, you were trying to imply that, like, with one of those, you wouldn't use more than 2 packets of sugar for something. Whereas with one of them, you might. But that's not true. Under both of these, it's basically irrelevant which term you're using.
That's not entirely accurate.
Yes, it is!
There are some cooking situations I could think of where you'd only need, like, a dash of sugar.
There are some, but they're extremely limited. When you're cooking food, you are essentially doing the same thing as baking food.
In that you are creating food from ingredients.
Yes, and by virtue, like, you will totally have 1,000, 100,000 cases where you're gonna need more than 2 packets of sugar.
But that's only if you bake. I don't know anyone, like... I know a few people who bake. I don't know that many people.
You don't know anybody who follows recipes that involve more than fucking 2 packets of sugar.
Like, maybe it's some chilies, I suppose, actually.
What do you mean, in some chilies?
Well, that's...
You make a cake! You can make cakes!
Who bakes cakes? I don't know anyone who can bake cakes, except for, like, my mom. She can bake cakes.
Any human being with common fucking sense can...
Tons of people cook but don't bake.
Okay, but any human being with common sense can make a cake.
You can do it. Does that mean you're going to? Does that mean you need ready access to sugar to... We're in top 8. I need to organize.
When you make brownies or make stuff like that, yes, absolutely.
If you do that, if you do make brownies and bake, that was my whole point. If you bake, then yes. But not everyone bakes. It's not a, like, strange thing to not bake.
The issue is that since you can simply make brownies by following a recipe, it can also be cooking, and it doesn't need to be baking. You don't need to use the terminology baking.
Yes, you do, because you're baking. That's what it is. It's a completely different art to make cakes and brownies. That's baking.
The issue is that if you are completely following a recipe and it becomes cooking, Gemini, because this is the thing, the way that you use fucking cooking and baking are terminologies based upon type of creation, not, like, methodology.
That's not actually true.
No, it's absolutely how you use it. I've heard you make the argument. I've stayed away from it because it's fucking idiotic.
Okay, here's the deal, right? Because the difference is that baking is, like... Cooking is this as well, right? But baking, more so than anything else, is like a hard science. You can't go about baking the same way you go about cooking. It is actually like a substantial difference. Baking is a scientific thing. You follow the recipe, you follow it exactly, and you don't fuck it up because it's chemistry. Like 90% of it is chemistry, or more. With cooking, you can do dashes and pinches and all this other shit, and you're fine, right? It's totally different. It requires a completely different skill set. It's why there are people who can't bake but can cook, and vice versa all the time.
You are now to imply that every single time you make brownies, it is following an exact recipe with absolutely no deviation in any capacity under any circumstance.
No, but you're a lot less free to make deviations than you are with cooking. And you do need to pay a lot more attention to exact measurements than you do with cooking, especially for cakes.
I like how I can tell you don't do either of these things.
Have you talked to a lot of people who do?
This kind of argument is like you're literally fucking crazy.
Like, my parents both do a substantial amount of baking. You can ask them. They're very good at it. This is their opinion, too. What the fuck just happened? I heard Battlefield, so who the hell quit out?
Like, I get what you're trying to imply, but this is literally doing term mixing, and it's so unhelpful to literally anything.
But it's the opposite of term mixing. It's term separation.
No, it's not term separation, because you keep doing this thing where you're like, well, that's kind of cooking, but it's also baking, but it's baking and cooking and cooking and baking. You're like, you don't understand. Literally, you term confused when you basically said, well, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can totally, like, you can make alterations and deviations when you're doing things like brownies, but that's still baking, because you can't make as many as when you're cooking, even though you literally just implied that, and you totally do make a massive number of alterations and minor deviations when you're doing baking.
It depends on what you're making, I suppose. If you're baking like a loaf of bread, good luck. If you're baking a cake, again, good luck. I'd like to see it. Because this is, I hear this from literally everybody I've ever been around who has ever cooked anything. They're like, follow the, like, get out a fucking measurement. Like, don't, like, no pinches of flour. Get out a fucking measuring cup, you idiot. You know. Whereas with cooking, it's like, ah, chili, you put some of this in there, you put some of that in there, you do this, you do that, whatever.
So you're now attempting to say that, like,
you taste as you go along, and you can add things as you go along. Again, another thing you can't do when baking.
That is...
I guess you can taste your batter, but, like... not the same.
You are now attempting to imply that, like, okay, so if you're baking a cake...
Jesus Christ, where are we going?
The only part that has any deviation was... This is, like, really ridiculous, dude.
Where are we going, Zeke? Where are we going, guys? Is it Battlefield again? I'm just gonna pick Battlefield again. Fucking whatever. I'm just gonna...
Kim Jong-un of cooking and
frying is bad. I believe it. You just deep fry everything. Thank you, Zeke.
I think you actually are.
Excuse me.
You're the Kim Jong-un of, like, cooking terms.
I just watch MasterChef, man.
Yeah, I know. That's your problem.
I watch MasterChef and cooking is in the family, and that's all. That's my excuse. What?
Like,
oh, Zeke's just not even fucking here. What the fuck? He was still disconnected. Are you kidding me? Oh my god. This is why Top 8's gonna take 4 hours.
And there's also why I hate this, by the way, because, like, using baking itself is actually also a term. Like,
yes.
A type of cooking.
That you can bake while you cook, yes. Like, baked chicken or whatever, but that's fine. Like, you just use it in different contexts.
The issue is that whenever you start talking about it the way that you talk about it, and when you try to make the specifications that you make, it ends up becoming, again, terminology confusion, and it's just a mess.
If you
want to do something very, 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 very specific, which is what you want the specific notion of there is a type of creation of food that is extremely rigid. Like, find a new fucking word, because there isn't one out there.
If you're using it as an activity word, like you would use cooking, like, I'm gonna cook today, I'm gonna bake today, then yes, you're talking about baking, the separation.
The problem is that if you say, I'm gonna bake today, that could literally just mean that you're going to cook chicken.
No,
no! Say, I'm going to bake some chicken.
You say cook!
No, you can absolutely say, I'm going to bake some chicken, as in the method that you are going to use to make the chicken. Baking!
I'm going to make baked chicken, you can say that.
You can absolutely say, I'm going to bake chicken.
No!
There's literally nothing wrong with that.
No! Because the action isn't baking, the action is cooking.
The action is baking. You are using the method called baking of baking the goddamn chicken. That is why this terminology separation is idiotic, and it's why people that follow your line of thinking are literally wrong about this.
Baking chicken in the oven is not the same thing as the art of baking, which is what baking refers to in that context. Why is he not joined yet?
The problem is that by saying, I am going to bake some chicken today, or I am going to bake chicken, that is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, because you are going to bake the chicken.
The chicken is going to be baked, but when you say bake as an actionable term, you are implying you're going to utilize
No,
the
you
art
are
of
not.
baking.
You are not. That is something that is artificially implied by a bunch of high-class idiots that came up with this separation for literally no fucking reason.
It's a valid separation.
It is absolutely not. Figure out a new word. Like, it literally makes no sense. It makes no sense. Like,
We're on
yes.
Battlefield now. Nobody wants to hear this anymore. Why are we still on stream doing this? Thank you for the follow, Tony Man, 1982. Somehow. It'll never end, my man. It's okay. Dark. Mishandled instructions. Dick now in oven.
Yeah, basically.
It's understandable, I suppose.
I hope he's not. I wish he was.
I'm not. No, I am not crying. You guys are hilarious, though.
Why is he playing a me?
Yeah, he is. Well, Zeke is bringing out the me. I think the reason why Zeke asked if we were if me's were allowed, by the way, earlier,
So he
was
could
so
do
that he
this.
could run through the whole tournament using nothing but the me 1111.
Yeah. He's playing Daisy, so like that's like Mario Striker's Daisy.
Basically, right?
Yeah, it's like Mario Striker's Daisy.
Except it's not the right color, so already minus points.
Yeah, please don't.
I would love to.
Please don't start that.
Let me tell you all about VCR theory. Hey, you don't want to send me out on that. Go ahead, Kademia.
No,
Ask me
no.
if candy is or ask me if chocolate is candy. That's an easy one. That's another kind of similar topic. Oh, damn, good chase.
Yeah.
Like I said before, by the way, Secret of Mana proves.
You want a candy bar, Gemini?
Okay, but candy bar is different than saying candy.
You want a candy bar? But a candy bar is a piece of candy.
No, it's not. It's a piece of chocolate.
Yeah, no, it's the piece of candy.
Candy
Because
bars actually are never made of candy. Ironically enough.
More terminology makes it because you're fucking stupid to understand how words work. Made evidently more and more evident the longer I have known you.
Go ahead, Kademia. Give me an example of a candy bar that is made of candy.
All of them.
No, because those are all made of
candy
chocolate.
bars- all candy bars are candy.
They're all made of chocolate, man. Candy
Yes,
is like
they are made
nerds.
They are made of chocolate.
And Twizzlers.
They are all candy bars, which means they're all candy. Because candy bar is actually a sub-classification of candy.
Chocolate has its own word. All you're doing is making it so that candy doesn't have its own word now by lumping chocolate in with it unnecessarily.
Oh boy.
That's
Why? Okay, so why are you calling it a candy bar then?
Because that's just the terminology that
No,
evolved.
it's a chocolate bar. No, you're wrong. If what you're saying is right, then it is a chocolate bar, and it cannot be called anything else under any circumstance ever.
This is not true. I mean, you can just have misnomers.
no,
We have
no,
misnomers
no.
in English.
No, this is literally wrong. It is either candy are things that are sweet and are food, or you call them chocolate goddamn fucking bars.
I do call them chocolate bars if it makes you feel any better, but I just also accept the terminology candy bar because it's just an Englishism. We say plenty of shit in English that doesn't make any practical sense. It's fine.
Yeah, dude, that's why the language is so fucked up, because of dumbasses like you that ruin the fucking language.
Like, it's fine.
Because you keep coming up with garbage bullshit and you have no idea what you're fucking talking about.
Just
You've
because
literally destroyed the language.
Good round. Good round, Arctic. I think the real reason people should pause the stream while they're playing their matches is that so that doesn't distract them, by the way. Why were you not on the stage? I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
Well, why are you making that distinction now? So when it's in bar form, it's candy, but otherwise it's not? And you're only making that distinction because of the term candy bar, which, as I've already stated, is kind of a false term to begin with, so
No,
we
it's
should
a
just kind of
perfectly
let it
valid
go.
term. You even said it was a valid term. That's why you said that it's still called a candy bar.
It's a misnomer. I mean, I'll still let you use it and I'll know what you're talking about, but don't act like it makes it candy. Thank you for the follow, Bike Vin Tees.
It absolutely makes it candy. That's why it's called a candy bar. And here's the thing. Regular chocolate is not necessarily candy in and of itself, but chocolate in the form of a candy bar is candy.
Hey, Kademia, let me give you a riddle. Why do we park in driveways and drive in parkways?
Because English is fucked up.
Exactly! That's the whole point!
Exactly! That's my whole point! Stop using fucked up terms and use real words!
The term is fine.
There's also the fact that, like, most candy bars
what
are
happened?
actually candy, by the way, because they're not just chocolate.
Why'd Zeke leave? Zeke, what's up? Also, what DSR? Okay, he says Omega Suzaku, but Zeke, you have to be in the game first for that. I mean, I can do it at least. Articuno's just gonna have to pray, I guess. That's fair. I mean, it's just an Omega stage, so how much does it really matter? Got DC'd again. Well, gonna have to rejoin, my man. Now, see, that is the question, right? So, like, other than, like, the whatchamacallit, I can't think of any, chocolate bars that have candy in them.
Okay, so what you're saying is that it now needs to be. Like, it can't be anything else, because nothing else can cause it to be classified as candy, right? It has to be specifically pieces of candy.
Well, it just has to be, like, you know, candy of some kind, right? So, like, caramel's not candy, chocolate's not candy. Candy is, like, Sour Patch, or, like, Nerds, or, Tweet Tarts, or Twizzlers, you know, that's candy. It needs to have something like that in it. So, like, if it was, I don't know, filled with, gelatin or something, that would count as candy bar. Like a gummy bear, I don't know. I'm just waiting on Zeke to rejoin at this point, you know, I'm just shooting shit. No, caramel's not candy! Blow me!
Caramel is actually candy and is almost very commonly described as being a candy.
A candied apple is an apple with caramel on it. Blow me!
Well, not only that, but caramels themselves are a candy. And they're literally just
different
caramel.
flavor profile than candy. I don't know. I don't feel like that's a helpful.
No. Candy does not have a specific flavor profile. You can't pull that shit.
Sure it does.
No, it doesn't.
Sweet and or sour. There you go. Done. Salty, savory, not in candy's repertoire.
Lemonade is now candy, Gemini.
Lemon drops are, yes.
Sweet or sour. No, lemonade.
Okay.
Lemonade the drink. Sweet tea is now candy.
All right, as long as it's a solid.
No, shut the fuck up. Your description was goddamn sweet or sour. That now means every single food item.
It was implied it was food and not a drink, you fucking pillock.
Okay, cake is candy. It's sweet. All cakes are now candy.
Okay, well, it's gotta be. Zeke, where are you?
A lot of potato chips are now candy, by the
Zeke,
way.
where the fuck are you?
Every
no, I'm sorry.
type
I'm sorry. He wants me to rehost. You know what? I just read that. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I will rehost.
Every type of mesquite is now candy.
You eat
Like
mesquite?
every type of mesquite barbecue is now candy. Mesquite barbecue. Do you not know what mesquite barbecue is?
I know what, like, the glaze is. I know what, like, you can use mesquite in a barbecue. I don't think you'd want to eat it.
Do you not know what mesquite barbecue flavored potato chips are?
Okay.
Have you never had them?
All right.
Have you never had
That's a
anything
very
flavored
mesquite.
mesquite?
That's a very specific.
It's a very common flavor.
No, I know it's a flavor of potato chip, but you're talking about the potato chip because you don't eat fucking mesquite unless you want to go to the hospital.
Mesquite barbecue is what I said.
As
Not
a
that you're
flavor
paying
of
attention
food.
to either the chat or me. On top of that, again,
You're
you
the
said
organizer!
Anything that is sweet or sour. Again, you have described 90% of all fucking foods are now candy.
It's just an overgeneralization to ruin my point. You know what I'm talking about.
Problem is that chocolate fits in with what you said too.
It is sweet. Chocolate is sweet, but it has a little bit more of that savory kind of deal to it than candy does.
Like, see, you can't even describe what you're trying to fucking explain.
That doesn't mean that no description exists. Like, everyone knows what I'm talking about when I talk about candy, and caramel and chocolate are not the same. Like, you wouldn't... I wouldn't ask for, like... I wouldn't ask for candy and you give me a caramel. You'd give me a Warhead. You'd give me, like, Twizzlers.
Exactly, Cyrek. It's why his description literally has no relevancy whatsoever, because he said sweet and sour, and there's tons and tons and tons of candies that are not sweet or sour.
Like what, actually?
There's, I don't know, 700,000 jelly bean flavors that are all candies, but none of them are sweet or sour. Like, tons of them aren't sweet or sour. Like popcorn.
It's still, I mean, it's pretty sugary still.
Not particularly, and again, like a lot of those things, like the flavoring actually comes. I just and there's tons of coffee candies that are actually like more of a bitter candy than a sweet candy.
I mean, yeah, that's accurate. That's true.
Like there's tons of things that are candies that have nothing to do with sweet or sour, which is why the flavor profile notion does not work.
Yeah, the flavor profile thing doesn't quite work. It's just a commonality I saw between all of the types of candy, but it's very hard to, like, basically candy is anything that's not chocolate or caramel. There, fine. You
Okay.
get me on that one, because
So
we have
steak.
words for those.
So steak is candy.
In candy terms, you ass. Like, is it...
So anything that is candy.
Jesus Christ.
So anything that is candy that is not chocolate or caramel is candy.
Any hard sweet that is not chocolate or caramel is candy. There you go. Are you satisfied yet? Is that good
So
enough?
cotton candy is not candy.
Omega Suzaku. No.
What is cotton candy?
A fair food. I don't know. Cotton candy should fit, and I guess like
Cotton
pixie
candy
sticks do
does
too.
fit. And of course, yes, of course.
What do you
pixie
want
sticks-
from me? What's your description of candy?
I don't need
Smart
one because
ass.
I'm not trying to make this like massive classification war. I'm not trying to say, oh well, I don't chocolate candy bars aren't candy, they're chocolate.
You're still
Bars
using
and
candy
nothing
as a
else.
classification, though, if you're lumping chocolate and caramel in there, so you have to have some kind of terminology. What's candy, Kademia? Tell me what candy is! Jesus fucking Christ!
The problem is that like I don't have to make an argument. 'cause
What do you mean you don't have to make an argument?
I absolutely don't have to make one here.
I'm not trying to argue the English language has any classifications, Gemini. You are, even though my whole argument is based on the notion that chocolate is candy. Fuck you!
I was saying that a candy bar is made of chocolate, but is absolutely also candy.
Well then why? What makes it so, Kademia? Where is your fucking justification
Terminology
for the
makes it so.
classification?
Terminology. I mean, you will use this argument in the fucking baking shit.
I did, but then I was also like,
No,
I
you
had to
didn't.
make an
You didn't.
argument.
You didn't fucking make an argument at all. You just rambled on for fucking 15 minutes.
I had some kind of point, you know, I was attempting to make an argument. Whether or not you say it's rambling doesn't really, like, I never said I don't have to make an argument, Gemini. You're the one on trial here.
Yeah, there's also that entirely, which Smash Bros. A very valid point of.
Okay, yes, you are correct. I asserted they aren't candy, but that means if you're taking up the opposite position, you have to be asserting they are candy. So,
Yes, they are. They fall within the definitions of the things that I personally believe are candy.
and what are those?
Most of the things that you would classify, as well as things like chocolates.
Yeah, like everybody knows what candies mean. We don't have to like get very strict with how we define our foods.
Apparently we don't, because again, you have to be. Again, you were the one that challenged it as a notion. So yes, you are implying that we do have to be strict.
Yeah, dang, I already picked that
challenge-
read by just a hair. Yeah, I know. We're in top 8 and we're bored now, so we're just talking about this bullshit. Even though top 8 is the most exciting part of the Smash tournament.